Okay, so the next question in front of us is that define sequential probability ratio test along with its operating characteristics function and average sample number. Determine SPRT for testing null hypothesis such that theta is equals to 4 against alternative hypothesis such that theta is equals to 5 in normally distributed population with unknown parameter is theta with variance 1 with alpha 0.5 and beta 0.2. We know alpha and beta here is what? It's type 1 error and type 2 error. So let us first define the given characteristic, right? That is OCF of a SPRT specifies. So basically OCF means what? It's the operating characteristic function of SPRT, right? Now it specifies what? It specifies the probability of making a correct decision as a function of the sample size, right? So that is, let's write down what? SPRT specifies the probability of making a correct decision as a function of sample size. Okay, now suppose there are two-sided SPRT, then for that what happens? Null hypothesis is such that theta is equals to theta 0 and alternative hypothesis is such that theta is equals to theta 1, where this theta represents what? The parameter being tested, and theta 0 and theta 1 are the hypothesized values under the null and alternative hypothesis respectively. So the OCF is given by how much? What? So OCF is equals to probability accept null hypothesis at n samples given H0 is true, right? And what about the average sample numbers, ASN? So it specifies the expected number of samples required to make a decision. Okay, so how can you define it? So ASN is equals to summation over the range n is equals to 0 to infinity n into probability of decision at n samples. Okay, now let us have a look at the given question. So let us determine SPRT for testing what? Null hypothesis given in the question is 4 versus alternative hypothesis, that is 5, in a normal distribution with obviously theta and 1, right? Alpha is 0.5, which is type 1 error, or let's say level of significance, and the type 2 error is 0.2, right? Now for a normal distribution with mu and sigma square as the parameters, the likelihood ratio for observing sample X is what? We can write it down as this: function of X given H1 by function of X given null hypothesis H0, right? Where this function of X given H0 and f of X given H1 are what? Probability density function of the normal distribution under H0 and X1. H0, that is null hypothesis, and H1, that is the alternative hypothesis respectively. So now given that in the question we know that sigma square is 1, right? That is given n theta sigma square. So sigma square is 1. So the likelihood ratio here will become what? E to the power minus x minus 5 whole square by 2, right? Because what? Null hypothesis is 5 and alternative hypothesis is 5, and null hypothesis we know is what? 4. So we will put that value x minus 4 whole square by 2. So now if we simplify this, we get e to the power minus of x square minus 10x plus 25 minus x square plus 8x minus 16 by 2, right? On further simplification, the result we have is this: e to the power minus 18 2x by 2, which is e to the power 9 minus x, right? Now, for SPRT setup, we need the following decision boundaries. What are the decision boundaries? it is that this should be greater than k for accepting h1, and if it is less than 1 by k, then for accepting h0. Alright, so that's for the answer.